The weight of gold. The rain hammered against the tin roof of the shed where Marcus slept, each drop a reminder that some nights even sleep came at a cost. At 17, he'd already learned that the world didn't owe him anything. His mother had died when he was 12. His father drank himself into oblivion 2 years later. And Marcus was left with nothing but calloused hands and a stubborn refusal to become another statistic. He worked 3 jobs: mornings at the construction site, afternoons washing dishes at Romano's Italian restaurant, and nights stocking shelves at the 24-hour grocery store. 4 hours of sleep if he was lucky. His friends from high school, Jake and Terrence, would sometimes stop by the grocery store on their way home from parties, laughing about girls and weekend plans while Marcus priced canned goods with tired eyes. "You're killing yourself, man," Jake would say, not unkindly. "Come out with us sometime. Live a little." But Marcus couldn't afford to live a little. He was saving every penny, storing crumpled bills in a coffee can hidden beneath the floorboards of his shed. He had a dream that felt impossible and inevitable at the same time: his own construction company. He'd watched the foremen at work, seen how they managed crews, negotiated contracts, turned raw materials into buildings that touched the sky. He knew he could do it better. 5 years passed. Marcus was 22, and his coffee can had grown into a bank account with $5,000, enough for a down payment on a used truck and basic equipment. He registered Coleman Construction with the county clerk on a Tuesday morning, his hands shaking as he signed the papers. Jake and Terrence were his first investors, his oldest friends. They'd both inherited modest sums from grandparents and wanted in on Marcus's dream: 10,000 each for a 20% stake in the company. Marcus was so grateful he nearly cried when they handed him the checks. Finally, he wasn't alone in this impossible climb. The first year was brutal. Marcus underbid established companies, worked longer hours than seemed humanly possible, and slowly built a reputation for quality work at fair prices. He hired his first employee, then his second. By year 3, Coleman Construction had 12 people on payroll and was bidding on commercial projects. That's when Marcus noticed the discrepancies. Small at first, invoices that didn't quite match the books, materials ordered but never delivered. He stayed up one entire night going through the records, and by dawn, the truth sat heavy in his stomach like spoiled food. Jake and Terrence had been skimming $50,000 over 18 months, funneled through fake supplier accounts. His best friends, the brothers who'd believed in him, had been stealing from him while he worked himself to exhaustion. The confrontation happened in the construction trailer on a Friday afternoon. Marcus laid the evidence on the desk between them. Jake's face went red, then pale. Terrence couldn't meet his eyes. "We were going to pay it back," Terrence mumbled. "When?" Marcus's voice was quiet, dangerous. "When I went bankrupt. When I had to let people go. These aren't just numbers. These are families depending on paychecks. This is everything I've built." Jake stood up, defiant suddenly. "You've changed, Marcus. This company, it's made you obsessed. We barely see you anymore. We thought—" "You thought you'd help yourselves to what I earned," Marcus finished. "Get out, both of you. I'll buy out your shares at the original investment. You'll get your 20,000 back, but you're done here." "You can't," Jake started. "I can, and I am. And I could press charges, but I won't. For the friendship we used to have, I won't. But we're finished." They left, and Marcus sat in that trailer until the sun set, feeling more alone than he had in the shed at 17. The betrayal cut deeper than poverty ever had. Poverty was impersonal. This was a knife in the back from hands he trusted. For weeks, the anger ate at him. He worked even harder, fueled by bitterness, building his company into something that would prove he didn't need anyone. Coleman Construction grew. Marcus was ruthless in business, brilliant in execution. He expanded into 3 cities, then 5. The revenue climbed into the millions. But success tasted like ashes. He had money now, more than he'd ever imagined. A penthouse apartment, a luxury car, respect in the industry. Yet he couldn't sleep. The anger had become a constant companion, a weight that no amount of success could lift. On the 5-year anniversary of the betrayal, Marcus found himself driving past the old neighborhood. He saw Terrence working as a cashier at a hardware store, looking older than his 32 years should allow. Something twisted in Marcus's chest. He pulled over and walked in. Terrence looked up, and fear flashed across his face. "I'm not here to cause trouble," Marcus here said quietly. "I just want to understand." "Why?" Terrence's shoulders sagged. "My sister got sick. Cancer. No insurance. Jake's mom needed a nursing home. We were desperate, and we made the worst decision of our lives. We thought we could fix it before you noticed, but it spiraled. I know that doesn't excuse it. Nothing excuses it." Marcus stood there, rain beginning to patter against the store's windows, and realized something profound. The anger he'd carried had built his empire, but it had also hollowed him out. He was wealthy and utterly alone. He'd achieved his dream and lost his soul in the process. "Are they okay now?" he asked. "Your sister? Jake's mom?" Terrence looked surprised. "My sister's in remission. Jake's mom passed last year." Marcus nodded slowly. He thought about his own mother, about what he would have done for her if he'd had the chance, about desperation and poor choices and the weight of consequences. "I forgive you," Marcus said, and the words felt like setting down a boulder he'd been carrying up a mountain. "I don't know if we can be friends again. Maybe we can't. But I forgive you both, and I'm sorry about Jake's mom." Terrence's eyes filled with tears. "Marcus, take care of yourself, Terrence." Marcus walked out into the rain, and by the first time in 5 years, he felt light. Not happy exactly, but lighter. Free. The next morning, he called a meeting with his management team. "We're starting a scholarship fund," he announced, "for kids in poverty who want to learn trades. And we're creating an emergency fund for employees facing medical crises or family emergencies. No one who works for Coleman Construction should have to choose between doing right and taking care of their family." His CFO raised an eyebrow. "That's generous, but it'll impact the bottom line." "Then we'll make more money," Marcus replied. "What's the point of wealth if it doesn't ease suffering?" Over the next decade, Coleman Construction became known for 2 things: exceptional buildings and exceptional care for people. Marcus mentored dozens of young people from backgrounds like his own. He taught them not just about construction, but about integrity, about the difference between wealth and richness, about success that meant something beyond a bank balance. He reconnected cautiously with Jake and Terrence, not as business partners, but as flawed humans who'd all grown in different directions. The friendship would never be what it was, but there was understanding now, and compassion. The anger was gone, replaced by wisdom earned through suffering and choice. At 45, Marcus Coleman was worth $30 million. He still woke early, still loved the smell of sawdust and the satisfaction of a building rising from nothing. But now he also knew how to rest, how to laugh, how to let people in without fear that they would destroy him. One evening, sitting in the park where he used to sleep when the shed leaked too badly, Marcus watched the sunset paint the city skyline in gold. So many of those buildings bore his company's mark, but his real legacy, he knew, wasn't steel and glass. It was the hundreds of lives he'd touched, the second chances he'd given, the forgiveness that had freed him. He thought about the boy he'd been, sleeping in the rain, angry and alone and determined. He wished he could tell that boy, the hard work will pay off, but not in the way you think. The betrayal will nearly break you, but it will also teach you. And the real wealth won't be in what you earn, but in what you learn to give away, including the grudges you think you have every right to hold. The rain started again, soft this time, gentle. Marcus tilted his face toward it and smiled. He'd built an empire from nothing, but his greatest construction was the man he'd become along the way. Not despite the hardship and betrayal, but because of how he'd chosen to carry it and ultimately to set it down. That, he thought, was worth more than all the gold in the world. The moral: true wealth isn't measured only in money, but in wisdom, forgiveness, and in the strength to transform pain into purpose. Success built on bitterness is a hollow victory, but success built on resilience, compassion, and the courage to forgive becomes a legacy that enriches not just you, but everyone you touch.